the chairman of our party, our special advisors who are here, permanent secretaries, heads of MPAs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me formally welcome you to this onboarding session for the newly appointed commissioners to the Edo State Executive Council, and also the permanent secretaries who are here with them. This morning, we are going through the tradition that we've established, as the head of service said, of ensuring that we let people who are joining government, the new government we are creating, know what the institution they are joining or coming into, what the expectations are, what is going on at this point in time, and what we expect their own contributions to be. The civil service, the public service of Edo State, you know, is quite an old one. But for us as a government, since 2016 when we came in, we took a conscious decision to transform the public services of Edo State, because we could foretell that things were going to change in Nigeria, because the signs were already there over 6 years ago. So we embarked on a very systematic and systemic transformation of our public services, because our public services, as we know, public service in any system, the bureaucracy is the engine that runs the affairs of government, that orders how society is run, that ensures that policies are prioritized and government activities function for the benefit of citizens. So we're here essentially as public servants to offer services to our people. Over time, as a result of many historical accidents, the orientation today is as if the public servant is the big man, is the person in charge, the person that owns the resources and therefore can dispense and utilize and deal with public resources the way they like because they're there at this point in time. That's the notion. So, Mr. Governor, you're in charge. The Constitution gives you all the power. Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? It's not my resource. It's not, these assets don't belong to me. They belong to the people. And there are rules guiding how these resources must be utilized. So today, I am just going to quickly run through where I believe we are and where I think we should be going, and what your roles should be as we close out this first 8 years. By the grace of God, many of you with the experience you've gathered here are going to continue to play roles in Edo State, but it's important that you know where we are so that we don't go back to where we're coming from. Because it's almost impossible to go back. What will happen is that if we don't keep moving forward, then we'll be stuck. We'll be in a real crisis in Edo State. We have no choice. A few policy measures have just been undertaken in the last few years. Those policy measures are the first time in 2 generations we're taking still such measures. And there's no way you can go back. Since almost after the Civil War, you've had like a dual exchange rate. Today, we have started the process of ensuring that you have one single market. So nobody goes in because of his position in government, takes money from one market, and then arbitrages it to just make money without doing anything in another market. The whole issue of subsidies and the subsidy regimes are, for the first time, we're dealing with them. And so we're going to have to begin to live life all over again. We'll relearn how to live without, undue advantages to people, government. Where did we start from? When we came in, we realized that we had to restructure, we had to focus on the key priorities, and we selected six key priorities. We said, first, institutional reforms. If you don't fix the engine of government, that vehicle will stall and stop working. So we embarked on institutional reforms. And what do we mean by this? The civil service and the public services. How do you operate? Let's say we started from just even the look and feel. This is a government office. This is a government facility. I don't think we meant anything like this when we came. And our goal is to transform and make sure that the working space, the working environment, is one that is appealing and make people want to come in and create the infrastructure that will enable them to work efficiently. Then the next phase was to even look at how they work, the processes, what you do when you come to work every day. Do people even know what to do? Are they trained? That's why the emphasis on onboarding, on JUPSA, training, so that at least people know what to do when they come to work, what to do when they are within institutions. Then we looked at the processes. You know, the system we inherited, the colonial civil service we inherited, has gone through transformation over the years. How do you make it a lot more efficient? Why must you continue to use paper and write memos, you know, the way it was done 50, 70 years ago? Technology has come in. We need to be able to use technology to deliver services more efficiently and better. So it was just not only looking at the infrastructure, the look and feel, but the way, the process, the knowledge, what people need to do and how they need to be taught. And then also the processes, how they need to work when they're in government. And above all, you know, the way they should work, the values, ethics. When you say you're a public servant, you're a civil servant, what does it mean? What rules guide your conduct? Can you just do anything you like because you have the authority to? So institutional reforms for us was key, because without fixing the structure of the institution, everything else is supposed to rest on the institutions. We then said, all right, what are we doing all of this for? We're doing it for our people. So we must look at the social conditions of our people. Particularly the young people. At the base of any society is education. Training and teaching people what to do and how to live. And we said we should put enough emphasis in rethinking how we learn, how we train our children, how we rebuild our society. And that's what led us, when we started with a series of workshops, to figure out what the key issues are and how to deal with those issues. And hence the emphasis on education and all we've done with Edobest. But you have to understand that all of these things tie together. The reform in the judiciary, reform in the legislature, reform in the executive, all of those, because each one has its own institutional arrangement. You can't reform one section and leave the other. It will not work. And its reform is a challenge. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes generations for you to get to where you're going to. Walking here this morning, it just struck me that yes, you have a very nice building, we're rebuilding government offices. But look at the grass around them. They're unkept. So there's something still wrong. The organization is not performing yet. They're not, look at you come in here, look at the front there. It's stained, right? Who is in charge? So you come into this nice building that has been built by government. But what the people in there, what are they supposed to do? Everybody needs to, we need to build up to a position where there is a high performance in government, because everyone who gets salary from the treasury is supposed to offer some service and offer some value. That is the key. And it's not personal, it's just fair, it's a contract. So we looked at the social conditions, health, how do we ensure that our people are healthy? How do people receive services? Because one of the things, we don't sit down enough to think and say, okay, yes, we're lucky, we have a young population. But even for those who are not too well, how do they get health services? What should be the role of government in providing health services? What should be the role of government in providing education? What should be our role in supporting the the vulnerable in the society. We are strong. We have the resources. But when we take all those resources for ourselves, then what happens to the rest of society? When we in government send our children abroad, take the money that is supposed to educate all children and just restrict it for our own use, then what happens to the rest of our society? That's where we found ourselves. Meanwhile, when we were growing up, all of us went to schools here. How come the society that could train us cannot train our children today? Show something is broken, and nobody else is going to fix it. And the other issue is you can continue to lament, everybody complaining about why things are, but what are we doing to make sure that we make that change? And that's where we are as a society, because we knew it was going to come, and we're heading there. And so for us in Edo, it's like, let's be ahead of the curve, because we have no choice. These challenges are here with us. We must now utilize the benefit, the advantage of being in government to show that some of these things can be changed. The other area we looked at is, fine, once you fix the institutions, you fix the people, so what? They have to be economic resources. We need an economy, we need to have that economic revolution where people are put to work, people utilize the benefits of the resources and assets around us. We realize that for us in Edo, the empire was not an accident. As a people, we've lived in a certain way through thousands of years. We've been economically prosperous. There are certain reasons why we were, and those reasons still exist today. So if you just organize government properly, organize the way things are done, you should be able to boost your economy tremendously. Because one advantage we have, which has always led to our prominence, is location. We've always been located in between trade from ancient times. Between trade from the internal and external or international trade. The Portuguese were here 500-600 years ago to trade. So that advantage we still enjoy, even more so today, because you can't traverse this country without going through it. So opportunities will always come through. How do we organize ourselves as a government to make sure that we take full advantage of those opportunities? How do we prioritize? What should we, what are the advantages we have that nobody else has? And how do we ensure that we utilize these advantages to build a very strong, resilient economy that will benefit all our people? The other issue we talked about was, what are those things that are unique to us, that constitute the essence of Edo? Because if you don't look inwards to see, who am I? Who are we? And build everything you're building, your development, your future, around who you are, then it cannot be sustainable. It can't be sustained. Because one of the mistakes we've always made as a country, we travel abroad, we see something, and we just want to bring what we've seen and believing that it will work here. It can't work. Most of the time it won't work. There's a reason why it's working there. So we need to understand our own selves, build around the systems, the foundation on which what we need will work for us. And the advantages we have, as people have said, apart from the access to, location, access to energy sources, access to very fertile land, access to mineral resources, outside of all of those, the question is, who are we? What makes us different? First, it's not a mistake. We live in the rainforest. This is our environment. And we must eat. God, the way God has created it, you chop from where you live. So if we God has put us in the rainforest, now decide to change our environment into what it's not, then we suffer. And that's what's going on today. That's why it rains today and everywhere it's flooded, you can't move, there's erosion, because on our own we haven't sat down to think about sustainability to preserve our environment. You come in here, as I was telling someone, as children, when we're driving towards Obia during the day, the headlights of the vehicles are poor because of the foliage that covers our roads. Today you are going there, it's like you are in the desert. How do you think we will not have strange illnesses? How do you think, we will not, we will not be distorted in the way we look at that? So sustainability, environmental sustainability is so key, but it is the least of our issues today. The first thing we do when we go anywhere, cut down all the trees, forgetting that there's a reason why those trees exist, and without those trees, your soil will not hold. You can't construct roads. You can't do much. So your cost of repairing what God has given you will be more than you need to develop. That's what we're facing as a people. But nobody is thinking about it. The people who should be, people in government, think those things don't matter. What matters is how to just take care of their own issues and move on. The last issue is the issue of culture. Because everywhere else you go in the world, they tell you, you go there and they'll say, oh, this is what we have, this is who we are. What do we have to show the world? What do we have to offer the world? In Africa, we are one of the few people who have anything to offer the world. In the way we live, in the way we organize ourselves. So our culture is so key and unique that nobody else has it, nobody else can replicate it. And it's one of those things we could take, we should and will take advantage of to replace ourselves within the context of global discourse. So when people are talking, at least the issue of Edo, Benin is always there. And people understand why. That we are not an accident. That we lived in a global world 500 years ago, and today, we still have a role and a place in globalization, depending on how we organize ourselves. So, what does it all mean? It means that for the last 6.5 years, we've tried to force a new thinking. And it starts from your politics through governance. And that is the most difficult aspect of it. So when people say, oh, they don't know what you are saying, they don't hear, they don't believe, it's because the people in themselves, bulk of the people in the rooms, people who work with, don't believe it, they don't accept it. It's new to them. They're still struggling with the idea of reforms. It's going to take time to imbibe. And so for you coming in, how do we finish this message? Is to say, there is no going back. The way Nigeria has been structured today, we don't have the kind of money we used to have. Now, what we have now has to be optimized. There's no secret anymore. There's nothing you do today that people can't figure out. Some people come, oh, help me, give me a contract. I say, okay, to do what? Or to go and supply something. I say, why should I? Because if I want that thing, I go on Google and I find it and I get it. And I say, ship it down to me. So what value are you adding? But in those days when you didn't have technology, you couldn't know. It was easy. You say, okay, I'll go and buy this pen. Pen is 10 naira. Okay, go and supply it at 20. Today, even if I say go and supply this at 20, tomorrow somebody will go online and say, look at the stolen money. Pen that is 10 naira, they went to supply it at 20. You understand? So it's a total, it requires a whole new rethink as to how government. And then, maybe at one time we had money, but today, as a state, as a country, we're poor, very poor. So why do we continue to waste? The road will cost me 100 million a kilometer. Why should I price that at 300? It means I can only construct one road instead of 3. Meanwhile, we need thousands of kilometers of roads. So that's why we must have these reforms. And I sit back today and I'm saying that fortunately for us in the last 6.5 years, we've done things that have moved the envelope. And that's why we're not hurting as many other states are hurting. Many states can't pay salaries. They can't pay pensions of their staff. For us, it's not even something we consider. I was calling the agent to say, oh, when is Salah? Oh, Salah is next Friday, so maybe you need to pay them on Monday. So we passed that stage. But how did we get there? It's because that whole force, forced to make change, and that change has to be across the line. So what we've seen in that 6.5 years is resistance to change. So you as a team are coming to say, no, we're coming to finish. This change needs to get its logical conclusion. And we are so lucky today that as a country, we have realized nationwide that for us to make any progress, to move forward, things have to be done differently. Let me quickly just round up by focusing on three other issues I think we need to talk about. First, in the process of reform, one key tool will be communication. How do you let people know what you are changing? In the last 6 years or so, 6.5 years, unfortunately, we have just been caught up in a lot of struggle to keep the change afloat. Because at every turn, there has been very, very vicious attempts to derail that process of change. So there's much more energy has been spent trying to stabilize the sail of government, and not as much effort to communicate what has been going on to our people and explain to them why we need to sustain what we've done. Take the issue of the issues I have just talked about. In terms of the civil service, in terms of the public service, why must we recruit and hire people on the basis of merits? Yes, I tell people, I come from a very, very large family. I have about 300 first cousins. So if I want to use my authority as government to favor my family, nobody else will get anything. But are they the most deserving? So why not have a process where people come through based on merits? Because when those people, you hire people, those people you're giving responsibility to will help all of us in society, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you hire a good teacher, a teacher based on merit, doesn't that person will not teach the children of everybody in the community?
Yeah.
Why must that person be my own person who may not even know how to teach? Or a doctor? So the point here is we must be able to communicate very clearly why the need for reforms. Because without these reforms, we will continue to lament and we just, think we'll just not make the progress we require. Secondly, we need to also communicate, because yes, the first time when people look at the buildings, look at the secretariat complex, look at that, that's what hits them, that's what they see. But that's not the real reform. But that's not it. What is more important is what we do inside there. How we make sure that we're able to offer services to our people. So we also need to be able to, to communicate those. And communicate the fact that, look, everybody benefits when the system works. So you will be under pressure. Oh, you're not a commissioner. Oh, you need to show. Oh, look at this. When they have village meetings or community meetings, there will be pressure on you. Just tell them, you didn't ask me to go and represent you, to go and steal. Because what you're asking me is to steal and bring for you. And there'll be nothing for us. Because how do you expect me to get what you're asking me to give you if I don't steal? Right? So that communication is also important. And we must also act very, very quickly so that people say, oh, they're speaking English. Let me just give me, is what I need now, is what I can eat now. How do we communicate that? Tomorrow must come. And tomorrow is more important because today you already know. The other point I want to talk about is how do we ensure that we create a high performance civil service. To make sure we're able to use the limited resources we have to do so much more. And it's not very difficult. It's just about accountability. You'll find you have a staff role, a list of people who are supposed to be working under you. How many, my experience is that the heads give cover. You don't check who's working under you, who is being paid, that comes to work. In fact, you do them a favor. Sometimes they're abroad. They're outside the states. No, nothing is given to them to do, and they get salaries for doing the work. Even those who come in to the office, how do they account for what they do while they're in office? So you find out that only a few people do the bulk of the work in any agency or ministry. If we don't change that, we will not have a high-performing organization. Everybody is there to contribute something, and you must demand that contribution from them. The last is about our values. If the value is that we are here to come and chop, then I think it's something we should test in the political space, whether it will fly today or tomorrow. In the past, yes, share the money. You do, you give a few people things, you're able to go through the political process, buy votes, rig, do whatever you want to do. Today, thank God all of you are political appointees. You cannot. We saw it here. Even with the amount of work we're doing, you can see the expectation from society. We cannot continue the old way. People must just understand that the new values call for service. That members of the public, particularly the young people, are very angry. They are angry. They don't understand why when they watch television, they go on social media, their whole society is so depriving compared to other places. And they ask themselves, why should we be here? Why should we stay here? It's an indictment on us. So, you've joined this team. The last 6 years, there's nothing we practically haven't seen. We've made significant progress. We need to communicate that progress. There's still so much more to do. A lot to do. And let me just tell my permanent secretaries here. I am sorry. I am going to be quite hard. Because I watched very carefully the last 4 or 5 weeks when commissioners were not here. And read most of your memos. And there are about 4 or 5 ministries that were just particularly bad. 80% of the memos that came from some ministries was just how to spend money on activities, rent canopies, do this one, do that one. I mean, I just sat down and said, nothing to do with policy. Nothing to do with policy. How can they just spend more money? 5 billion here, approve the us to do this. That was all it was all about. And you are a permanent secretary. Look, we're going to have conversations, honestly. We are going to have conversations. And I'll show you, because I kept records of all of them. The good thing is I read. And I can see why it will create a crisis between you and your commissioners. And if we're going to finish strong, we are not going to have weak permanent secretaries. We must have strong permanent secretaries. Is that clear? I will show you. Fortunately, with the technology today, I captured most of them. I'll call you and say, look, these are the 12 or 15 memos you sent to me. Just look at how much it all came to. Look at what you were requesting. How will any of these, how does it affect your core offering as a ministry? So, let me now formally welcome you and say that the next 18 months we're going to have fun. Because we're not going to be doing anything new or hard. We're going to be explaining, talking to our people, and showing them why we did what we did and what the future will look like. We have to sell that message of hope to our people. And my experience is that anybody who has the opportunity in life to serve people like Edo people to count themselves lucky. Because our people know they are very, very smart. Very, very smart. They understand what is going on. Sometimes with the kind of text messages I get from people, the kind of commentaries I get, I'm amazed and say, wow. So they know what is going on inside of government. Many of you came on a very, very high note. People came in home very happy, excited that quite a number of you have been appointed into Edo State government as commissioners. The expectations are very high. And you don't have to worry because, like I said, there's nothing to prove again. What you just need to do is to make sure you stay on top of issues. You understand what we're trying to do and avoid a lot of small side talks that don't add value or benefit. Keep your eyes on the ball. The next 6 to 12 months, what do we need to, where do you need to let the world know that we have achieved or you're sitting on? Is that clear? Don't, our politics is very straightforward. If you don't deliver services, the people will not come out and vote for you. Simple. And you cannot rig. Is that clear? So don't worry about the politics. Just worry about the work. See how we can deliver. How we can carry our people along. How we can explain what we've done to them. And by the grace of God, you will not have anything to regret having been appointed to serve as Commissioner in Edo State. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency.